Welcome to Tampa Tea, and we're in Gasparilla season, so we're very lucky to have a couple scallywags out of costume, and with Shamus Warren and Frank Smith with Ye Mystic Krewe. And we want to, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
We want to get a little behind-the-scenes look at what goes into this. So first of all, Ye Mystic Krewe started this in 1904. Give us a little bit, briefly, the history of how we got to this, where we are.
Absolutely. So depending on who you ask, Jose Gaspar was either very real or very not real. The story that I think is commonly accepted is that the society editor for the Tampa Morning Tribune at the time,
Miss Louise Dodge.
Yeah, Louise Dodge. She created the mystic Jose Gaspar to help promote tourism for the city of Tampa, and along with some business leaders, Ye Mystic Krewe Gasparilla was started, and early on, we invaded on horseback before we had ships, and for the first number of years.
This is when the fairgrounds was over by where it's now University of Tampa, right?
There originally were 50 members that gathered. Only 26 of them were on horseback. We presume that the others were afraid of horses. And the statue that's at the University of Tampa now at Plant Park, there's a historic picture of that. And then they paraded across the Lafayette Street Bridge down to Old City Hall. And that was the first parade. Mm-hmm. And it was a May Day festival.
That's right.
And then that didn't last very long. They moved it to Monday. And for many, many years, it was always on Monday, and the kids got a day off from school to go to the fair for Kids' Day at the fair on Tuesday. So it was a wonderful time.
And well, you're a lot younger than that, but what do you all remember from those early?
Well, he's not much younger than that. But.
Yeah, so I've been in the crew 57 years, and as a kid, you just remember going down to Bayshore Boulevard. The crowd wasn't near. In fact, it was a fraction of what we have now. You basically sat in a chair, had just watched the parade, and the pirates came by, and they handed you these gold doubloon coins, and they shot their pistols and gave you the warm shells that came out of them. That was pretty much what you got. It was a beautiful parade, a beautiful day, and then you had the day off the next day to go to the fair.
Kids had the day off the next day?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Wow.
I think it was all of Hillsborough County.
Wow.
Went to the fair.
Yeah, and I remember as a kid, my father and grandfather were both in the crew. And one of my earliest memories is sitting on the lap of my grandmother with my mother there and waiting for my dad to come down the parade route, and with those warm shells, because it's cold, and you get those warm shells and keep you warm. And my mom would hand me a cup of bourbon to take to my dad. And of course, there were no barricades back then. You just sit on the curb or sit in a chair and run around out there in the street with the floats and the pirates and whoever else was out there, and it wasn't a big deal.
And then, do you know the history of when it converted to a maritime endeavor?
It took a couple of years to get there. We had several ships, primarily borrowed. The original ship was in 1937, and it was a schooner, and it lasted for a couple of years, but then they borrowed ships to do the invasion. And we had a Jose Gasparilla 1 was actually the 1937 ship. We had a few before that. And then in 1954, the keel was laid for Jose Gasparilla 2, and that is the one that we've been sailing ever since. And it is the only fully rigged pirate ship that was actually built and made to be a pirate ship, probably in the world.
Wow. But now I only learned this very recently, but it's a barge, right?
Basically designed like a barge, so it doesn't have a keel typically like you would find in a schooner or a ship. So it's made to be towed, which it is towed by tugboats. And so it has no power of its own, and it doesn't sail.
And it's amazing because I never knew that. And my office takes pictures, but they go out of their way, I learned, to avoid showing the tugboat to steal any of the magic.
An interesting side note, one of the tugs, named the Dorothy, was built in 1897 and has participated in every single one of the parades and invasions that we've had,
Wow.
and this is her last year. They're going to retire her.
Wow.
She's still there, and a little tiny thing. It looks like a cartoon, and she'll be retired after the invasion this year.
And how many people go on the ship now?
800, 800?
Yeah, about 800, and it's full up, and yeah, it's amazing when you stand on the deck of that ship and there's just a few people on board. It seems rather small. When you put 800 on there and up in the rigging and the ratlins and everything, it's amazing how full it feels and how big it feels, and it's a pretty unique experience.
And it's an alcohol-free ship, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And how many Ye Mystic crew members are there?
We've got over 800, yeah, and honestly, a lot of that is we limit that because of the size of the ship, and some members choose not to ride on the ship, and we have different classes of membership, and some choose not to ride on the boat and just go straight to the parade route, but you know, in the 800 range.
And who gets to be up at the top of the sails? Or who
First
gets...
come, first serve.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is a little bit of hierarchy. There's some that have traditionally kind of claimed that space early, and we let them do their thing. But I don't want to go up
Afraid of
there.
heights? I'm not going to do that. You can have all of that altitude.
I've been up there a few times, and that's enough.
And I've heard the bathrooms are very special, nice, and
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're functional. Yeah.
functional. So talk about, I know we talked about, tell us about the tightrope walkers.
Yeah, Frank will remember this. I remember as a kid before I was in the parade, but yeah.
So the ship basically came down the Hillsborough River, but in 1975, the Crosstown stopped that.
Oh, right.
So, and at the same time, the fair moved from the fairgrounds at Boulevard and Cass and moved out to 301 where it is today. So it was sometime prior to 1975 when the ship would go up and basically dock where Curtis Hickson Park is right now. And there was a tightrope walker that would walk between the masts and going up the river. I think it was the Lafayette Street Bridge. When that bridge opens, it doesn't exactly open parallel. It opens at a little bit of an angle, and one of the pieces of rigging sort of caught the bridge and basically did a little
Twang.
rubber band twang of the mast, and he went flying.
Because the tightrope walker was a tradition, would go back and forth during
The
the
entire
voyage.
invasion, back and forth, and yeah.
You need to resurrect that. That is so cool.
Well,
I'm not doing it.
He went flying, and fortunately landed in the water.
Yeah.
And was not hurt. But they stopped that. And of course, not being able to go up the river and go through the bridges pretty much eliminates that issue.
What condition is the ship in now? Is it in good shape?
You know, I'm on the ship's committee, so that's a year-round effort. Being a 70-plus-year-old boat, it does require maintenance, but we've got an amazing team, both relationship with the shipyard and some of our crew members are involved in shipping and just great relationships there. So there is a scheduled maintenance program on there. So every couple of years they'll put it in a dry dock and scrape the crud off the bottom and the barnacles and repaint it. And you know, she sits there on bayshore throughout most of the year and collects a lot of bird guano and whatnot. So about a month before the invasion, we take her over to the shipyard and pressure wash her and put the flags on and everything. So it's a pretty robust effort to keep her going. But to answer your question, she's in phenomenal shape. We test the thickness of the steel on her hull, and we have divers that go down and check when she's in the water. And for a 70-plus-year-old vessel, she's in great shape.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not better than I am.
And I'm looking at Shamus, and I've never met Shamus when he's not in full regalia. And I was about to say you're much more handsome in full regalia, but no, you look very, very different, really unrecognizable.
I get that a lot, Adam. I'll walk around in costume and people kind of don't even look twice, and then they'll look at me and give me that funny look, like I sort of recognize that guy. But, no.
But then, so talk about what goes into the costumes, and I've heard there are some badges that some crew members get and some...
Not really. I mean, one of the cool things about our organization, there are over 80 crews that participate in the day parade now. But obviously, we were the originators of our parade, and one of the neat traditions is we really don't have a tradition. We don't have a uniform. So each individual pirate is sort of in charge of what he wants to look like. There are parameters. You don't want to wear baseball caps. You don't want to wear stuff with logos on them and that sort of thing. You want to look like a pirate. But one of the neat things, I've been in the crew 28 years, and every year I'll travel somewhere and find a pin, or I'll find something else to add, and you build your own costume out of that. And so it's pretty cool. And yeah, we have beads every year that have our logo on it traditionally for the year, and so most crews do that. They'll have, and that's actually become kind of a fun tradition where some of the crews will trade beads and pins and lapel pins and that sort of thing.
So for the morning of Gasparilla, walk us through that day, because given how elaborate the makeup, etc. is, it takes a while to get ready.
I'm not going to be a good answer for that, because I do my own makeup, and being in our Grenadiers committee, we're not in makeup many times during the year, but you just learn over the years to do your own. I know Shamus does his own, but go ahead, Shamus.
Yeah, so for a traditional pirate, one that doesn't do special events, we last year did over 61 events throughout the year as this special events committee, the Grenadiers. But the run-of-the-mill pirate on Gasparilla morning will show up at the Tampa Yacht Club, and there are makeup tents there and breakfast, and it's a big family occasion. There's live music and steel drum players and that sort of thing, and they'll go in and get their base makeup on, and then they'll go to different stations within the tent there, and you can get facial hair put on. If you don't have facial hair, you can get bullet wounds or scars or black eyes, whatever you want. And again, it's very personalized. They'll ask you, what do you want? Do you want a black eye? Do you want a bullet hole? And it's a lot of fun.
And so there must be makeup artists in Tampa that really are particularly good at pirate stuff.
You typically see the same ones in that tent every year. Yeah, they've been around for quite a while. Yeah.
And so when was it was Ye Mystic Crew solely for how long?
Well, it's always been Ye Mystic Crew solely, and then in
1966
was when other crews started to join the
Crew of Venus joined us, and it wasn't until 1973 that the third crew, which was the Crew of Santiago, joined us, and the crews kept adding, and of course they are different. I mean, you have crews for men, you have crews for women, you have crews for both. It's very diverse, and that's what makes the Parade of Pirates so unique today, is because of the diversity of all the various crews.
Yeah, and we actually, there's a governing body called the Inter-Crew Council that all these crews belong to or have representation on, and we actually encourage them. A lot of them want to be pirates too. We encourage them not to do that. Like, find your own identity, and we've got the pirate thing kind of down. So you want to come and start a crew, find your own identity. So that's kind of been fun to watch how that's grown. And now when you go to the parade, you see all different sorts of crews.
Adam, one question I get asked is, when did they start the beads?
Oh yeah, great.
In 1986. So I don't know what the other crews did as they joined it, but beads didn't start until 86, because we continued to do our shells and our coins, but I don't know what the other crews did.
Who started the beads?
Other crews.
Oh, other crews. That's interesting.
And then, of course, we had to brand our own style of beads. So we're not doing the spent shells anymore. We still have coins. They're not like the ones that were back then, but they're metal coins now. But primarily, it's the beads. And you get all the kinds you want. You see everything from, cannonball-sized beads, and very specific to various crews. If
I bring a stack of beads to Jane Castor, she is so fussy. She will be like, there's got to be a certain weight. It's got to go at a certain velocity, pretty much a dangerous velocity that can hurt somebody. And if you give her a little light, wimpy bead, she will send you packing.
It's funny, Adam. We've unfortunately, and I wouldn't encourage this, but I've thrown beads out before and had them thrown back at me. If they don't like them,
right.
They'll throw them back, and it does hurt.
And so when did it get so, it was always a big deal in Tampa, but at some point it became a national spectacle kind of.
In '88 is when it actually moved from Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
And when that happened,
Why?
We had the Super Bowl.
Oh,
And
so
the
they moved it on us,
NFL
right.
didn't want it to conflict with the Super Bowl, and so we moved it to Saturday, and that's really when it exploded because you didn't have to take a day off of work, and you had the weekend to recover and everything, and it really got to be a big thing. We're actually we think we were the third largest parade in the country behind the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and the Rose Bowl now, so it's definitely generated
single day parade.
single day parade. Yeah.
Bigger than Mardi Gras, because Mardi Gras has
Well,
multiple.
Marty, there are multiple parades over multiple days, but no, we're talking about just one day parades, like the Rose Parade and Macy's.
Yeah, and we estimate, depending on the year and the weather, anywhere from 200 to 500,000 people participate in our parade.
And when did it get raunchy? Because I think it's gotten less raunchy, but there was a period where it was pretty out there.
Yeah, I don't know if it was any single thing, but I mean, in the early days, it was a little bit unhinged. I would argue pre-cell phone cameras.
The early days, meaning after the Super Bowl made it.
Yeah, but I would
80s, 90s.
Yeah. And then when the advent of cell phones, where everybody had a camera in their pocket, people got a little more, on both sides of the fence, got a little more cautious, and there's been a concerted effort both with the law enforcement and with the crew hierarchy to try to clean it up and make it a little bit more.
I think that's what former police chief Castor says, is as soon as parents started seeing some of the videos of what their kids were doing,
Absolutely.
there was a lot of push to clean it up.
And for years, we struggled internally with image because we would get blamed for a lot of that. And frankly, it wasn't us. We were just doing the things we'd always done going down the parade route, and it was a lot of the crowds that were creating the issues. So I'm glad, frankly, that it's turned the corner and become a little bit. I mean,
But
it's still
the
there's still a lot
children's
going
parade,
on.
which is the week before, which is basically alcohol-free, totally family-friendly, which completely flips to the other side. And that's been going on, I think, since about the 47, 48. So it started downtown. But the children's parade, I think, is one of the largest children's parades in the country. And it's an all-day event. So if you want totally family-friendly, and if you want to get a lot of beads, go to the children's parade.
Has anything gone really wrong in your experience that you witnessed?
I wouldn't. I mean, no big thing. I mean, we've had.
If you're a tightrope walker, you might.
Yeah, I mean
come up with some,
that would arguing. Yeah, we've had members fall overboard occasionally, but thankfully, knock on wood, nobody's gotten injured or killed.
It's amazing that doesn't happen more often.
We had the Tampa Tribune float broke down, and then the next year. By the way, these floats were self-propelled at the time, and so they only get used, like maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
The next year, it caught fire during the parade and burned it.
During the parade, it burned to the ground?
Yeah, and
it wasn't used for anything else. Right. It was probably battery disconnected and everything else. So yeah.
The St. Pete Times probably sabotaged it.
Yeah, if you
ran
remember,
it on the front page.
If you remember the movie Animal House, that's kind of what those old floats were. It was the float was built around a vehicle,
right.
And it was used once a year. To Frank's point, and it just kind of rotted the rest of the year. Now we require every float to be individually towed by a vehicle, which has solved a lot of those problems. Every year still we have flat tires, we have issues, dead batteries, things like that. So there's constantly little things, but there really isn't one big thing that again, thankfully we've been. In 120 plus years, we've been pretty lucky.
And one of the things people don't realize is that when Ye Mr. Krewe is not pillaging and marauding, you actually do a lot of philanthropy. Talk about some of what happens.
Yeah, so we I mentioned earlier we last year did 61 events, I think, and Frank and I are part of this group called Gaspar's Grenadiers, and we're a subgroup within the crew that do all of the media and social special events and philanthropic stuff. So every single year we do. My directive is if it doesn't promote tourism, if it doesn't promote the city, if it doesn't promote the crew of Gasparilla, we're not going to do it. We don't ever want to be perceived as clowns blowing up balloons at somebody's birthday party. That's not what we do. But if it's going to promote the city and the crew of Gasparilla, we'll try to make it happen. So we liaise a lot with Visit Tampa Bay and with the city and with law enforcement when they want us to do public service announcements or things like that.
We had fun with us. With Southwest Airlines was our key. Right? They flew us all over the country. They were promoting not only Tampa, but they were promoting their direct flights. I was in Hartford, Connecticut, and
Wow.
I was in Providence, Rhode Island, just to promote the Tampa destination. And we would work the flights in costume, in makeup. And I love.
You mean during the flight?
Oh yeah,
Very flight.
we go on the PA system and do pirate trivia and throw out beads and stuff, and it was awesome. But philanthropically, we every year we go to various hospitals around Tampa Bay and visit the kids that can't come to the parade. We bring a little bit of the parade to them. We for years have worked with pediatric cancer patients. We'll take them on the ship, not during the invasion, but on an off weekend, and let them be a pirate for a day. We, for years and years, our rookie pirates would ring the bells for Salvation Army and in full costume.
That's the rookie initiation.
Yeah, and we may get back to that. We'll see, but we do a lot of good stuff. It's fun for us, and frankly, Frank and I talk about this all the time. I love it because I pay the same dues. Frank pays the same dues to the crew as the run-of-the-mill pirate, whereas they get to do 3 or 4 events a year. We get to do 60 plus. I mean, we get way more bang for our buck, and it means a lot to us. And gosh, when you're sitting at the foot end of a kid's hospital room bed that has been in there for weeks for whatever reason, and you see them light up when you walk in the room. That just makes it all worthwhile.
And you give scholarships too, don't you?
We do. We George Steinbrenner was, when he was alive 20 plus years ago, started a community foundation that he seeded for us, and we continue as pirates to fund it through various events. And over the past 20 years, we've raised about $1.5 million for that foundation, and we give scholarships every year to Hillsborough County students. So I think last year we gave over $140,000 out.
He wasn't a crew member, was he?
He was.
Steinbrenner?
He sure was.
Did he dress up as a pirate?
Sure did. Became king.
Yeah,
One
he
of our
was King
kings.
Gasparilla.
Yes.
Oh, he was a king. And talk about that. How do you get to be the king?
It's an election.
Yeah. We were elected by our peers. Yeah.
It's a drinking contest, or it's a pillaging contest, or something like that. It's just
Sort of a write-in.
Yeah.
You, the election party, you write down who's going to be king. I don't know how many times our names have been on there, but
Clearly not enough.
absolutely.
So what are you guys going to be doing on Gasparilla Day, the main parade invasion?
I have a little bit different role in addition to doing the special events committee and various other, the ships committee and various other things. I'm also on the parade committee. So in the morning I'll go down to the yacht club and do some PR stuff with various TV stations. And then I get in a golf cart with a police officer and I go out to the parade route and help stage the parade, so I get all the floats in the right place and make sure everybody's happy and where they're supposed to be. And then when the parade steps off, I kind of ride along and troubleshoot. So if there's a flat tire or if somebody unfortunately falls off a float or something, I'm on a radio and kind of try to fix things. And
My day is quite different. I do my own makeup. I go out to the yacht club. Then after being in the crew for say 57 years, if you get old enough, you can opt off the pirate ship. So I've done that. I mean, I'm sorry, gunfire.
I could see the appeal of not being armored, squeezed in there.
The cannon fire, when you've done that for 40 some years. So I am on the Royal Barge, which sails right behind Jose Gasparilla 2. And it has the royalty.
he's smart because a lot of the wives are on that boat too. So he's
Right, yeah.
And it docks. I then get on a bus, come to the head of the parade, and I do about half of the parade, and I still walk it, but only do about half of it. So that's my day's quite a bit different. I do help with the pages to be sure that they don't get run astray when they leave the royal barge and get to the proper bus, so they don't go astray.
And the pages are sons of crew members, and they are the flag bearers.
Okay, right.
And they're on. I was too, and they're flag bearers, and they're on the royal float as well.
I've learned in this job there's what we all watch. Normal people just watch a parade. Meanwhile, if you're involved in the parade, there's always a thing about certain people walk too slowly or walk too fast, and they kind of mess it up the whole rhythm for everybody else. And
being on the parade committee, I can attest to you are 100% correct.
Yeah, we're working on fixing some of those.
It is an ongoing struggle, and if you notice a particular crew that is going too slow, you might notice that next year they'll be farther back in the parade lineup than they were the year before, and they get penalized.
Yeah.
Or if some of our folks are doing that, they end up in what we call pirate jail.
Right.
Yeah, jail float is the very last float of the parade. So if you know the jail float is there, you're up.
Yeah, if you're walking along and you see the parade, the jail float going by, you know you need to hustle up and jump on, because that's it. It's like the caboose.
Well, I can't wait. Thank you guys so much for everything you do, and also for joining us today.
Happy to do it. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it very much.